Before you decide whether you want to make your own beeswax wraps or to buy them, watch my video first. My name is Masha and welcome to my channel. So I had this idea of making this really cool video on how to make your own beeswax wraps, but it didn't turn out the way I hoped it would. There are a lot of things that were not going for me. I wanted to make this video a beautiful cinematic sequence, which is something I'm trying to learn, but the skill is not there yet. Doing it, I wanted to quit like several times. I was not enjoying making that video, but I believe in following through and finishing what you started. And this video actually turned out to be something a little bit different. It turned into something along the line of watch this before attempting to make it. So it's kind of an honest review of how making your own beeswax wraps actually turns out. So there it is.
The whole purpose of beeswax wraps for me is to reduce plastic waste and replace those plastic lids that don't last with something more sustainable. I've picked some fabrics from my stash, and natural fiber fabrics such as cotton is the best choice for this project. I bought a bag of beeswax beads on Amazon. I'll link them down below in the description box. One thing I noticed beeswax wraps tutorials didn't have is an advice to wash the fabric before applying beeswax to it. I think it's a very necessary step, especially when it comes to wrapping food. When the fabric is washed and dry, it's time to iron it. Then I take my actual bowls that I needed a cover for and measure about 2 inches outside of the bowl perimeter. I cut the fabric in a square shape because I think it makes wraps more versatile. I wanted to try to melt the beeswax in the oven, so I placed my fabric on the baking sheet protected with waxed paper. I actually used parchment paper because that's all I had at that moment. I sprinkled the wax bead all over the fabric and placed it in the oven. I set my oven to 350 degrees, but beeswax melting point is only 145 Fahrenheit. It's best to stay nearby and keep an eye on when beeswax melts. It was actually pretty satisfying to watch. When all of the beads are melted and the fabric is out of the oven, I have a limited time to lift off the fabric because it cools down fast and it can get stuck to the parchment paper. I wasn't fast enough the first time, so I put it back into the oven for less than a minute, and this time I peeled the fabric off pretty much immediately. I waved it back and forth for it to cool, and look at that texture. It was very grainy and not at all what I have expected. So I've decided to attempt an ironing method. I placed that same piece of the parchment paper on my ironing board, and for some reason I have decided to protect it with a fabric cutting board, and of course the heat ruined it. But don't we all have those moments? Some may say I have too many of those moments. So protect your ironing board with a thick or double layered fabric you don't care to ruin. I was much more pleased with the ironing technique outcome, but it is still not the texture I imagined it would be. Even though this process is a bit messy, I've decided to go ahead and make a few more wraps. I got beeswax all over my hands and had to wash my hands under a pretty hot water to remove all the beeswax. Not fun. I would recommend using gloves to protect your hands. So I just use my hands to shape the wrap. The heat that my hands produce is enough to mold it, and make sure to wash your wraps in a cool water so beeswax doesn't melt off.
As I was going through the process, I really thought I probably will not use them. I'm not enjoying this. This is so messy. It just sucks. My expectations were way higher than what it actually turned out to be. But after using it for a few days, I actually got around loving them. They are pretty decent. They're easy to clean. They're supposed to last about 3 to 4 months before they don't work no more. And I thought that's about enough time for me to forget about the whole experience and attempted to make them once again. So probably will continue making them. We'll see. I hope this video helps you to decide whether you should buy them or make them on your own. And thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Bye.